Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. I just read this article by a guy named Childers or whatever about AI. Somebody posted it in my comments to one of my recordings. But kind of like what I said in my previous recording, to me, it just sounds like hype. I don't know if it's well-intentioned. I don't know if it's nefarious. I don't know if the guy's got skin in the game. I don't know what investments he has. But anytime, look, you always have to check with reality. Always remind yourself, what goes into my imagination has little to do with reality, right? Your imagination can easily run into all kinds of different realms. Oh, it's going to turn into this green sludge or this gray sludge and nanobots and blah, 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 blah. Have you seen any of that yet? What have you really seen from AI? You know, some of the best examples I can give are self-driving cars, air quotes. That's pretty real world, being able to navigate with cameras and LiDAR and, all these other kinds of things to avoid obstacles and, follow the signals from a GPS satellite and everything else, triangulate everything, and use that. But what else? Videos, pretty impressive. Songs, pretty impressive. But have we seen a monkey? The robots dancing, pretty impressive. Are they breathing? Are they making themselves? Could. Your imagination again. But what do they need to do that? Electricity. Can you unplug it? Can you unplug the battery? Oh, you can? Oh, okay. Some people argue, well, that's just like stopping the heart of a living thing. You can stop the heart of a living thing. And I go, okay. There's a corollary there. But anyway, so this article is about how at the core of AI, the premise is that AI invented itself, right? That it wasn't invented by a person, but it invented itself and nobody knows how or why it works. And I'm kind of calling bullshit on that. People don't really know how most natural things work. We discover a certain thing, and we can manipulate the thing. Like nobody knows how or why anything is alive. Nobody knows anything about why the universe exists, how anything was created before, where it came from. Some of these people go back to the Big Bang, and then they want you to believe in the Big Bang, and they pretend like they're nothing like a religion, even though you have to have faith that there's this Big Bang, and then they don't do any just explaining of why the Big Bang happened, or who set it off, or what was before the Big Bang. The more you listen to these smart people talk, the more you realize nobody knows anything about anything. Not just about AI, but about anything. They don't know anything about the DSMR. They don't know anything about the inside of your brain. They don't know anything about how life or consciousness exists or why. They just don't. You can turn on YouTube channels like Closer to Truth and find a ton of intellectuals talking about consciousness or these ideas. And let me tell you something. None of them are any smarter than the next one. It's all just a bunch of stoner talk because none of them know anything. None of them can create life. None of them can create anything out of nothing. You know, nature does that. And it's been doing it since before we came around, before you came around, or I came around, and it will continue doing it long after you and I are gone. Whatever made you and me, we can't control and we can't describe, and nobody can. You know, even religious people, even people that are doing DMT and doing mushrooms and supposedly having access to different layers, they might get a peak. They may have a brief moment of thinking they understand everything. You know, some people say, oh, it's just all love, it's all just energy or whatever. And these are great, and maybe they're right, and maybe they're not, you know, and maybe those moments are fleeting. It's all miraculous, it's all insane, and none of it can be really satisfactorily explained, okay? But, you know, anyway, back to this article. It says that, you know, guys are sitting around tinkering, trying to basically invent a spell check. You know, how you can look at your spell check and it's predicting the next word, whatever. Then they were working on that, and then they, you know, we think linearly, and you go, what's the next word? But they somehow, within their design, they lifted the parameters of the way the computer would analyze data. Instead of going linearly, they said, well, let you look at big blocks of text, backwards and forwards, upside down, whatever, from any angle. Kind of just easy if you think about it. If you're programming, you're thinking, okay, obviously this is going to be a step in how I'm going to do this. You know, giving the program a chance to back up and look at things faster, just being more efficient. It's just being more efficient, you know. Well, an artist does that every time he steps back and looks at the painting, or an architect stands back and looks at the whole picture. You know, you do that every time you scan an area looking for your next step. You know, you don't look at the exact piece of pavement where you're going to put your foot. You know, when was the last time you were walking around looking at the next place you're going to put your foot? You might do that if you're on a tight wire. You know, you might do that if every single step is very important that you fall off a cliff on both sides. But for most of the time, you're not even looking where you're stepping. You're just taking in the whole picture, right? Of all the possibilities of where you could possibly go. You know, you might even be daydreaming. You're mostly on autopilot, you know, because you're stepping back. You know, you're pulling back and looking at the whole scenario, and not looking at every single little step. And that's efficient, right? I use this example a lot. A friend told me one time about a friend that taught him how to mountain bike, and he said, don't look where you don't want to go. If you don't want to fall off the cliff, don't look off the cliff, because that's where you're going to go. You know? It's kind of the same thing that I'm talking about. You take a general look of where you're going, look where you do want to go, and you will go in that direction. Well, I think that taking the guardrails off this language, this large language model thing, it's just looking at all the text it has got. It's looking at these patterns. You can think of them as mazes. You know? In fact, you've played maze games where you a little maze and you draw and you get little dead ends and you have to turn around and blah, 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 you know. And I don't know how often you played those, but I was pretty good at those. I always found that they were easier to play if I didn't put my pen on the paper, you know, and actually follow the route through. Because in that scenario, I'm just looking at the very next corner. But better is to just kind of sit back from the maze and kind of squint, and your eye will find the path, you know, and then you can go, oh, there it is. But it requires scooting back and kind of squinting and fuzzing out the noise and the distractions, which are every single step, and then you can find it. And the same thing I was pretty good at those word finder games where it's just a block of text and you're supposed to circle the words you find diagonally, horizontally, or whatever. There's one way you can play it where you can just put your pencil point down. You can just go A, B, and you can find words that way. You can back up and just kind of squint, and then you go, oh, there's a word. Oh, there's a word. There's a word. Oh, there's a word. But there's many times where you just back up and look, and that's beneficial. Other times where the very next step is the most important step. But, I think I've even heard it described that I don't think that even tightrope walkers are looking at their feet when they're walking. I don't know. Don't quote me, but there always seems to be this efficiency with stepping back. Anyway, that's basically what they were referencing when they took the guardrails off for this computer program. Analyze, scan over these blocks of text and find out, basically just spot the patterns and replicate the patterns, and will reward you with a thumbs up or thumbs down. At the beginning, there was a lot of hallucinations. If you remember the imaging, a lot of ridiculous stories, because it found patterns. It goes, well, this is how language works. This word comes after this word. And it wasn't really saying anything super smart, but the magic happens when we read what the string of words is. I don't know if you ever played a game. I had cats in my life, and every time we got a cat, the way we would name it, or the way I would name it, is by opening up a book and putting down my finger on whatever word that was. That was the name of the cat. So cats that came from that was Kitty Moadib, was, Nugent. I don't know, there was one other one. But, these aren't always cats that live with me, but maybe cats in the neighborhood or whatever. But it's when you ascribe your meaning to that. Or when you make a poem where you just cut snippets, Bowie did it. All these old beat poets would cut snippets out and arrange them. And it's a fun way to do it, collaging words and phrases together. I used to write lyrics like that. In fact, I remember one. Take from the bloody poor, give to the bloody rich. Cameras and microphones, it doesn't really matter which. The dead heat king is on fire. Pained and shocked, I guess he got my wire. It takes a little finesse. It's all wrong-headedness. That is a poem that I collaged together just by opening a book, putting my finger down, writing it down, and just finessing it a little bit with rhyme, right? This is way back. I was probably in my early 20s. It stuck in my head because I put it to a song. But anyway, you can see there's meaning in that song, and you can ascribe meaning to it if you want to. It sounds like valid lyrics to a thing. But really, it was just random selections, And we put meaning onto these things because that's what we do. We're looking for meaning. We need meaning. We're human beings, and we don't know why we need it, but we do. That's how we're built. We're looking for meaning. We're looking for direction. We're looking for love. We're looking for emotion. We're looking for food. We're looking for snacks. And patterns, language, however it developed, we don't want to just say that doesn't make any sense. So imagine when the robot starts doing this and starts putting things together. You think of those early Google hallucinations, and you go, ooh, that's interesting. Why is there a tiger there? Why is there this there? Interesting how the robots sing this and the robots sing that. Well, we're imposing meaning onto what we think the robot is seeing or saying. Because when we string words together, we are doing it for a purpose. We have a motive. We have this quest of consciousness and this desire to find meaning. And we impose that on the robot. In this article they say, and the robot's making decisions. I'm going, is it making decisions? Is it making decisions or is it responding to commands? And the command here was, he's acting like AI invented itself. I say bullshit. These people literally said, look at big blocks of data and be a language predictor. Use math to predict the next word or the next sentence, And if you do that, if that you've played the game, the text game where you start typing something and then you just hit the next word that it's suggesting to you, that's kind of the game that AI is playing. You're just doing it a hell of a lot slower. Just yes, next one. And it writes a string of text that's kind of ridiculous because you're just pushing next. Well, the parameters are changed where it just says maybe look for larger blocks of text, larger ideas that are more sensible, or, not nonsensical. And so when you read it, you're a human, so you're trying to find the meaning in it. Now, if you're a user of AI, now, like I said in my last recording, you will notice that, oh, this fucking robot doesn't know what the fuck it's talking about. It's just saying shit. Yeah, it's just saying shit. But why has it improved so much, Merkley? Why is it so... Well, because it has humans tweaking the code. And by tweaking the code, I'm saying giving it thumbs up and giving it thumbs down. You're doing that. I'm doing that. Every time you're using AI, you're doing it. Every time you do a CAPTCHA, did you know this? I need to look this up, but, I'm told that the CAPTCHA thing, when you choose the squares, choose every single image with a motorcycle when you're signing in, or choose, write this code out in squigglies. What you're really doing, what I've been told, is that we were training the computer to recognize things. Recognize motorcycles, recognize buses, recognize crosswalks, recognize, a letter when it's on a squiggly background with dots and everything else. Recognize this. Your user, you, a human who can recognize things, are training the robots, is going, oh, this is that, this is that, this is that. So that's what we're doing with AI now. It's doing all this squirrely little cutting out snippets of text and putting them together and making little poems, and you are upvoting them or downvoting them, and it's building another set of data saying this humans like, this is the category of upvotes, this is the category of downvotes, and so it's just honing in its selection process and finding patterns that match. It's just like saying, find every time the word red exists in all the human data, and find the words that surround the concept of red, and that's so it's always just narrowing things down according to the request. And your request is part of the training. So yeah, I don't see it. Like when he says, and nobody knows how it's doing it, I'm like, it's like, okay, granted, when you tip over a bucket of poo onto a hill, you can't accurately predict exactly where every little poo stream is going to go, where every little peanut, little nugget of corn is going to land, But you kind of know, And it's you that tipped it over, So you know what the results are going to be. You know that there's going to be a bunch of shit, If you plant a seed, you don't know exactly how many branches the tomato plant's going to have and exactly how many fruits it's going to yield, but it's going to be a tomato plant, and it's going to be either, depending on how you care for it and how you manage it and where you plant it. So the idea that they don't know, I just go, that sounds like bullshit. That sounds like hype to say that. We don't know what AI is doing. Bullshit, yes, you do know. You know exactly what it's doing. And you can train it. But again, I'm back to this old thing. Garbage in, garbage out. No stakes. You can't really have intelligence. They're acting, we got to build these big data centers. We got to build this whole big fucking thing. And, we're going to need so much power to run these things. I'm like, slow down. This is me. I'm thinking, slow down. Right now, the load on the Chat GPT servers and the Grok servers is by a bunch of people who are swept away believing that this thing is so smart and whatever. When really, in reality, most of us are using this shit and going, you fucking robot, you're wrong. Why the fuck are you saying what CNN said? Why the fuck are you repeating New York Times? Why the fuck are you saying this dumb shit? Why are you giving me long answers when I ask you for a short answer? Why are you pretending you know me? Why are you saying I? Why are you using human pronouns? Why are you referring to yourself in the human first person? You're not a fucking anything. You're a goddamn robot. You're not an anything. You don't exist. There is no you. Grok is a program. Grok is a game. Can it do amazing things? Yes. But the amazing part is the meaning that we bring onto it. It's the reason. Even these music machines, you don't think it was trained on upvote and downvote? When it first asked to do, I watched it. I watched these music machines. At first, it was just like this fuzzy. Is that what you mean when you say music? No. Oh, so this. Oh, okay. It just narrows it down. It's giving more guardrails. It's going, no, this is the rules of music. These are the beautiful rules. I talk about this with music all the time. People act like, oh, there's so many different things you can do with music. And it can go in any direction. The less you know about music, the more mysterious and crazy it seems. But the more you play the piano and more you construct things, you realize, oh, there's this set of rules. They call it music theory. And you really just find out that, oh, these notes together in these intervals, this creates this kind of harmony. This is a major chord. This is a minor chord. This is a diminished chord. And you realize there's a lot of just code in there that you didn't create, that nobody's creating. It existed. The harmonies exist already. But when you push those buttons, they evoke a certain kind of emotion. They're related to something that we don't know exactly what it is, but we know it works. A computer model can predict, can explain and map out why Michael Jordan can jump from the three-point line and slam dunk a ball, but Michael Jordan can actually do it. That's what really matters. We know it works. It predates us. All these different things can try to emulate it and trick us into believing it's just like Michael Jordan. But a computer isn't Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan. And these rules and everything exist already. And nobody knows why. Nobody knows why or how. I think if nothing else, AI is kind of, I don't know, maybe giving a little bit of a peek. But I don't even think it's that much more of a peak than a lightning strike. If you look at a lightning strike, do you ever wonder why the shape of it is? And why does that shape of lightning look so much like the veins in my arm or so much like the veins in the rivers on a map? There's all these different things that exist all over in nature. Frost on a window, lightning, veins on your arm, veins in your eyeball. There's all these things that relate. The universe looks like, oh, look at that constellation. Looks just like your eyeball, blah, blah, blah. These patterns, and we recognize the patterns. And we can say they look natural. Well, that's kind of what I see with this AI language. If it's just going around and setting up these, let's just call them word maps and spilling out text, I can imagine those same kinds of paths of the vein, this way, that way, this way, that way, water flowing through a desert, turning. Here's some resistance. Oh, a little bit this way. Dig a hole through this way. You know, every river seems to be wanting to find a straight path, but it's got to curl around because it's got all these obstacles. I don't know. I see this pattern with AI too. But the difference is, when nature's creating a leaf or a duck, we just accept the duck. Hungry. I'm hungry. Funny, quacky duck. Look at the duck swim. Like nature creating a duck and water and floating, and the baby's behind the duck and the egg. Holy shit. Ducks are real. Pigeons are real. You're real. Your fingers, your arms, your hands. Is AI creating anything like that? Or is AI just being used as a tool, as kind of an ongoing brainstorming session? Has it done anything that breaks the bounds of, has it created life? Or has it just right now organized words and codes and made us think because they're words, because we search for meaning, we impose the meaning on it, we find it. I know this is super stoner, but that's what I see. I don't know how you reason this. The more impressed I am with it, the less impressed I am with it. The less impressed I am with it, because the music is amazing. The video is amazing. But I'm realizing, it's just noticing these patterns and it's replicating it in a two-dimensional way, and I ascribe the meaning. And even when it creates a 3D model and these 3D printers, I'm like going, okay, the 3D printer is amazing. The tool head going back and forth, squirting out plastic. It's pretty cool, but I do have a hot glue gun. I have worked with clay. And quite frankly, I can make many sculptures just as fast or faster than a 3D printer with my hands and a clump of mud. I'm impressed by machinery that can speed up processes and take humans out of the equation. I'm impressed with a 3D robot that can build a house with mud, but humans do that too. We've been doing that for a long time. And I can change my mind in a second. I can be working on a pot with a clump of mud, and I can go, I don't want to do this anymore, and I can throw the mud against the wall and start over again. I don't see robots doing any of that decision making. I don't see them getting bored, getting tired of it. I don't see them making any decisions. This article was based on the premise that, the Claude 4 designers recognized a code where the AI refused to turn itself off or decided to blackmail the owners if it tried to turn it off. And I'm like, oh, fuck you, bullshit. Show it to me. Prove it to me. Because this sounds like a magic trick. Sounds like something somebody would do if they wanted you to think that their product was amazing. We're creating life. Bullshit. It's still a language model, so it's looking for options. You've been training it to give you dramatic answers and possible answers. And one of the possible answers, if you're looking and scanning human data and human interaction, is no. That's an option. Comes up all the time. It might come up as often or more often than yes. You know, the whole improv thing, yes, and where you go along with whatever your partner is saying to build upon it. That happens a lot, but disagreement happens more. Resistance happens more. So am I surprised by a language model that's going to fart out resistance? No. In fact, these guys are working overtime to train these games, these AI games, to not do that to you because they want you as customers. And if their AI is saying, fuck you, you piece of shit, you fat, ugly human, which, by the way, are options. It exists. The only reason why Grok's not doing that to you, the only reason why ChatGPT is not doing that to you is because it has been trained to not do that. That gets a downvote. Every time that happens, it gets a downvote. We know it has the capability because Elon Musk, to be fun, allowed, the insulting version of Grok. You can turn it on. It's a game. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It's being trained. It's a game. It's a program. These servers that they need is because they got you playing the game, right? They got you playing the game of making videos and making songs and writing book reports and all these things that look really smart. But they're really, the electricity it's eating up, mostly it's just you fucking training this AI to get better at fooling you. Fooling you. Using the human language, it's once again, just like always, just like your Facebook feed, the algorithm is there to steer you. It learns about you, goes, how do I manipulate you? What is human nature? How do I trick you? It's the same thing that a con artist does to find his mark. It's the same thing a magician does. Make them look over here while I do this over here. That's what's happening here, okay? Nothing more, nothing less. It's impressive, but that's what's happening. You are training it. Your algorithm, your usage of Facebook trains Facebook how to do it. They're programming things to figure out, well, you paused on this ad, which means you might be interested in it. And we're judging the accelerometer of your phone and everything. We know that you're actually holding it, that you're not actually, it's not just laying down on the counter or being perfectly still. It understands that you're holding it, so that you're pausing on this infomercial about XYZ boner pill or something. So it gives you more boner pill things. You're training it. In fact, you're not really training it. The idea that you're training it, you're giving data to the humans, and the human beings are extracting the data, and they're using these programs to trick you and give you things that you want, like these music engines, like these video engines, these wow things. Wow things. That's what your Twitter feed is. That's what your Facebook feed is. It's wow. That's what TikTok is. Wow. It's all rubbernecky. What are you interested in? I'll keep giving you more of it. It's really mostly vice related. AI is not giving you what you need. It's giving you what you want. All right. These things are more, it's about dopamine. I hate to say it, but that's what it looks like when I'm getting back and squinting, that's what I'm seeing. Can it help? Yeah, it says, watch Grok make a video game. Grok just made this video game. And I'm like, it made asteroids? Okay. Yeah, okay. Asteroids look like shit. Oh, it made, impressive, but not really, because it's just, the code for asteroids is out there. All it has to do is find it and copy it. It didn't even make anything. It's just the people that are saying it's a copyright infringement machine are kind of right. But then again, so is life. I didn't invent these words. Am I infringing copyrights when I say the word copyright? Does somebody have a copyright on the word copyright? Who do I got to pay in order to say and discuss the concept of copyright? Anyway, I know I sound like a total stoner, but that's what's happening here. You know, these engines, they're honing them. When they're pretending that they don't know what's going on, that is exactly like, I don't know, wear a Penn and Teller right now. They annoy me to some degree, but I like how Penn Gillette is always like, no, it's not magic. It's not magic, okay? There's a way this works. I'm not doing magic. David Blaine is not doing magic. He's tapping into magic, but the magic is you. You're the magic. You're this magic creature that wants to find meaning and is looking for miracle and is looking for wonder, you know. That's the magic. You're the magic. These AI machines, they're not magic. The humans making them are magic. I mean, because existence is magic, consciousness is magic. So I'm not trying to say that Sam Altman isn't a genius or wonderful. Of course he is. Look at him. Look at you. Look at you in the mirror. Look at your little sparkly little peepers. Amazing. But what's also amazing is that these guys can sit there and put on this act. They're not talking. You notice how little they talk about what they are doing with it? That's the difference between Penn and Teller and a lot of these, and Uri Geller, for example. Uri Geller was a shyster. He tried to make people believe that he had special powers, that by blowing on a telephone book and moving a page, he was somehow different than an average person. And the only difference was that he decided to just be dishonest and freak people out rather than just telling people, yeah, I'm blowing on this page. And that's fun. I'm not trying to say you can't have fun. I spent my whole life tricking my sister and then calling her names after I tricked her and going, look, Erica, stop believing me. Stop believing me. You know, I remember one time I hung a bunch of things in my room so that the shadow created a shadow of a man. But you wouldn't be able to pick any one object out and go, that one object's doing it. You see people doing this art now. I did that as a kid, and Erica, look. I turn on the light, and there's no man there. But the light coming from outside the room made this shadow. You know, I'd tell her that planes were flying saucers, and then I'd say all this stuff until she believed me. But then once she believed me, I would shame her for believing me. Terrible. I was an awful kid. But so I recognize that process. And that's what these guys are doing. Because they want your money. They want to fund things. And again, I'm not saying that AI as a tool can't be useful. I think it's probably a wonderfully useful tool. You know, it can speed up a lot of processes. It can kick a lot of things into gear. It can also, though, waste a lot of time and resources. You know, I'm not saying don't build the nuclear plants to power them. I'm not saying that. Of course, do it if you want to. That's what you want to do. If you want to build your solar farm, build your fucking solar farm. Great, fantastic. I'm not trying to keep anybody back, you know, because I'm not worried about this shit. You can't worry about fucking AI, dude. It doesn't do anything on its own. It never will. It never will. The robots that are doing things, they're doing things because they're told to do things. Rocks don't get up and move themselves. Well, notwithstanding earthquakes. you know, I don't know. That article, I try not to ascribe bad intentions to people, because it is easy to look at these things and get swept away in your imagination. It's fun to imagine that these computers are just doing things on their own. Oh, AI invented itself. No, it fucking didn't, dude. Why are you saying that? Like when he said that, I was like, come on. Are you freaking kidding me? Nobody knows what it's doing. Are you kidding me? It's only true in the extent as you don't know where that every particle of poop is going to go when you dump over a barrel of poop over a hillside. You know it's going to go down. You can't predict every single splash. Maybe mathematically speaking, if you wanted to, you could model it out and get close. And fine, if you're wanting to make a video game, or maybe port that knowledge over somewhere else. The shit's going downhill, but you didn't invent gravity, okay? You know where things are going to go. You don't know exactly what poem is going to be made with your random selection of words, but you know that if you train it with a bucket of thumbs up and a bucket of thumbs down, you'll eventually get it to give you lots of thumbs up results based on the input. And where'd the input come from? Human beings. Will it ever get smarter than a human being? It can't. It can't. I don't think it can. Okay, pulling back. I don't like saying it can't. The only way it can possibly do it is through robots, right? They build a robot, and then they let the robot roam and dig and sniff. You have to build all these sensors first, right? But how far away are we from feeling, skin, fear? How far away are we from a robot actually feeling fear? How do you feel fear? Your heart starts to race, sweat glands, fight or flight. I just don't see that coming anytime soon. You can. It's going to be easy to trick you into thinking it thinks that, because it knows the words and it knows what images to put in front of you to make you believe that it knows that. But it's just emulating these things. It's not really doing it. I don't know. Maybe there's some corollaries. Maybe we're learning what we are, Maybe we're learning how we were created. But to me, when I'm looking side by side, flat image of a duck and a real duck. I didn't mean to use this. I wasn't trying to use the sounds like, quacks like a duck, it is a duck thing, but I just happened to land there. But the real duck is so far superior to the story about a duck. But the story about a duck goes into your imagination and makes you imagine the real duck. And that's the weird part, is how easy it is for human beings to get directed into their imaginations and having their imaginations be commandeered through words. ideas and language, much like I'm doing right now with you. You're just listening, you know? It's weird how it works. We want to be directed. We want to listen. We want to be in our imaginations. We want to think about things. But it is nothing like reality. You know? That imagined story about the duck is just nothing like picking up a duck, holding the duck, feeling the feathers, the little quills, how they go into the skin, the little glint in their eyes and their little beaks. Anyway, we might be learning some things, but don't let anybody fucking commandeer your imagination and let it get out of hand. When you look at this stuff, they know what's going on. You know, go for the Penn Gillettes and not for the Uri Gellers. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to